Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Talking Grit. I am Jason Harwood. We are going to have a great show. And why is that? Because Jacob Litton is here. And we have Ash Soden, who hasn't been on here in a long time. You know his voice from the Roar of the UK, the Lions podcast over there overseas. With the Lions going to Germany, we thought that getting announced going to Germany, we thought this is a perfect time to bring Ash on. So, Ash, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me again, guys. I know it's been a long time, but the new job has just been taking up all my hours. Who knew that trains would be this stressful?
Is it toy trains or are you playing with real trains, Ash?
So I wish it was toy trains. They'd probably run a bit more on time, but it's real trains, looking after them, making sure people get on them, making sure they go on time, making sure they don't crash, all the important stuff. But yeah, it's a lot. Thank God, at least it distracted me from, the end of the season. It roughly coincided our downfall in the season to when I started the job. So maybe by the time things kick off in August game of preseason, I need to find a new one so we don't go 0-17.
Yeah, exactly. We blame it on you. You're talking to down here below me is the most, he will blame everything on you. If I don't wear the right socks, he blames me. So yes, you're going to get a call out, Ash, if you don't do your thing. So Jacob, you see Ash has got the Pistons hat. I got a Pistons hat. They beat OKC last night. You got to be feeling pretty good about that.
Obviously, all about the Pistons. I thought it was going to look more impressive than it did, with the Thunder basically sitting everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They had me a little nervous there for a little while, but yeah, took care of business, got it done. Coming off that loss against the Spurs, it was a tough week. Playing the Cavaliers too. I mean, the Pistons are playing good basketball though. What a time to be a Detroit sports fan.
It's awesome. One thing I watched that game last night, it reminded me of the Pistons. Pistons are like, Duran's out, Cade was out, Isaiah Stewart was out. At the beginning of the year, we had all our starters out. We were still playing good because we're really deep, and OKC is really deep too, and everyone just plays really hard. And if you play hard in this game, man, effort goes a long way in the NBA because not everybody gives full effort.
Right.
At least in my opinion. All right, Jacob. Big news right now is probably the Terrion Arnold stuff. We're not going to talk about it in too deep because really the information is kind of, just kind of coming out. So we don't want to get too deep into this, but what you want to tell everybody kind of what's going on and what you think about it?
Yeah, without getting into too many details, basically there was some sketchy situations going on that Terrion Arnold is tied to. Certain properties in different states. There's robbery involved, assault, kidnapping, all terrible things that you do not want a member of your team anywhere close to being involved in. And right now, Terrion has not been charged with anything, but his name is appearing in court records. It's making the news. It's making headlines for all the wrong reasons. And I'll compare it to like when the J-Mo stuff happened with the gun, where right away we had some details and it didn't sound like it was going to be that bad. It was kind of, we all kind of thought it was going to get swept under the rug. It didn't seem like he really should be charged with anything. And, we just didn't have the details yet. This one, I can't say is going to be, it's not necessarily going to play out the same way if these allegations are true and if he was involved. That being said, we do not know for sure that he was involved. We don't, nobody knows anything for sure. Court records are just coming out. This is still very fresh, but it is noteworthy, something that is a very bad look for the team and, is a very bad look for him, especially coming off the injury in the down season and everything, trying to make a name for himself as a young NFL player. Just the furthest thing you want from happening.
What do you think, Ash? Are you feeling the same as Jacob or you got some different thoughts?
Yeah, it's not the best look for him, and it perhaps explains Shep's comments about him when he was interviewed at the Combine yesterday, the whole, I just want him to keep quiet and play on kind of thing. So it seems at least the team knew what was going on. This isn't, without going too far in the past, the Cam Sutton situation would a team completely unawares of what happened with that cornerback. At least this time, the team seemingly knows. He's told the team and he's going to do that. Obviously, we don't pass judgment until everything's out there, but yeah, it's not a good look, especially with some fans already calling for his head for the injury history and the suspect coverage play with all the penalties. So it's just another chip on his shoulder that hopefully he will break and get off his shoulder like JMO did, who's won over pretty much everyone now.
Yep, that's what I'm hoping too. Like Jacob, I think you're right on with saying, let's not rush a judgment. The whole JMO thing come out, but people have already rushed a judgment. People already didn't like Taron Arnold. I think that, Ash, I think you're probably in a similar boat that Jacob and I is like, I think that he was getting a pretty bad rap. The penalties are one thing, but I think his coverage skills were actually really good. They just got overshadowed by some penalties. Hopefully he could just put this behind him. Hopefully there's not a suspension or anything coming. We don't know. It's really too early, but we just thought it'd be worth mentioning. I don't, we'll follow it and we'll talk about it as more information comes out. But as it looks right now, he wasn't directly involved, but we don't know the full extent of this. So we'll see how it goes. All right, Ash, this is your time, man. Lions got announced this week, going to Germany. My first question to you do you plan on going? Are you going to go?
I'm going to try my damned best to. The only obstacle is that Germany games somehow are, so I say somehow, they're even more popular than the British games over here. The Germans, especially over the past 10 years or so, have really grown to love American football. They had 4, I think, franchises, so European League of Football, unfortunately had to fold because of money issues. They had 4 of them, obviously with Amon Ra, Equanimus and the St. Brown family. They've really picked up on it. They just love their football. Them, the Nordic countries as well, they love their football. They pump out some offensive linemen. Looking at you, the Cardinal centre that everyone wants. So I'm going to try my damn best to go, even if it's, smuggle myself in someone's suitcase and pop up in the stadium 24 hours before and hide in the toilet. I will do my damn best to go and watch those Lions play, because if not, it's going to be a long saving trip for one to come over to Detroit in a couple of years' time. So at least with this, cheap flights on the day, go there, watch the game, hang out with some people, fly back overnight.
We want pictures for sure, so we can share them on our Twitter feed or wherever else. We're putting you on assignment. Ash Soden down on the field. Get
I
got
a question
get that media
for Ash.
pass. Yeah,
I got a question. Who, of the Lions' opponents, who are you hoping that they play in Germany? Is there somebody that you'd rather, do you want a divisional matchup, or are you wanting one of those other teams?
Honestly, and this has also been swayed because I've heard rumors it'll be this team, I want the Giants. I want Kafka to give a chance to go over to them and just destroy them for passing on him with the whole head coaching search. And I think we just want to get the bad taste of that game last year out of our mouth. The Jameis touchdown, though Derek Barnes wants to get that back. And the fact it got so close, we had to rely on Gibbs basically winning the game for us to beat what was a floundering team. So I want them just punish them, and also be a nice easy blowout. Hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood and all that, that be nice offensive football. We can see that free flow in. The defense will be nice and healthy and get some sacks on Jackson Dart, or at least for the first quarter, before he then tries to truck stick Jack Campbell and gives himself a concussion and rules him out for the rest of the game. Plus, I like some of their special teamers. They've got Jamie Gillan, who's known as the Scottish Hammer because he's from up north above me in Scotland. So they've also got some international ties that'd be quite nice for the league to tie into.
So, Jacob, I'm going to ask you. You just asked Ash if you'd want it to be a division opponent. You'd realize that we would lose a home division opponent game if that were to happen.
Right,
that would
right.
suck.
Yeah, it would suck. I really don't want that to happen. That's why, I was looking at the opponents and the Saints already have an international game. The other teams, though, I guess, Ash pointed out, I don't know who else has international ties necessarily, or who has international players. Obviously, Amon Ra, with the German history and everything, it made sense. And that was an awesome thing for the league. There's a lot of Lions fans over in Germany from what we've heard, but I don't know about these other teams if they have that same kind of international feel. Because, looking at the other opponents, the Bucks, Patriots, Jets, I don't think that there is one, that I know of that's a surefire thing. Who do you think, though? I really don't want to. I don't think that they would send a divisional game over there like that, but I don't, let's just say if that's out of it, who do you think would be most likely, Jason?
I could see the Giants. I don't know who's got the international game, so not a division. So I guess I don't have the schedule. Who are
the Buccaneers, Patriots, Jets, Titans, Giants? I think those are all the home opponents.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be the Patriots, because they tend to not. They want that in the States. I don't think that they're going to want to put that.
The prime
That'll be a
time
marquee
matchups, they
matchup.
don't
They
exactly.
tend to be like lesser. So I think the Giants are up there. Titans are certainly up there. Bucks could be, but that is a pretty good matchup. And because like a lot of these games for like in America are starting at 9:30 in the morning, so they don't want to put like a super primetime matchup. So I think Ash is right. I think the Giants are good. You get Jason Harwood over, that's some pull from his first year over there. The Bucks would be my other answer. They better not do a division game. I'd be really, really upset. And if it is, I'd hope it be the Vikings.
Can you
Just-
imagine Lions Packers at like 9:30 a.m.?
There's just no way the league would do that.
Right.
No way. God, that would be terrible. Lose the Packers at home too. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want to give them any
we'd
advantage.
get
So
screwed.
yeah. When do you think it's going to be, Ash? What week do you think this will be?
So usually the Germany games are the first or second week of November. So I think if I had to put my money down on it right now, I probably might have to with all the hotels and that. 9th of November. Get that in, get the bye, then have Thanksgiving. You can't have it too close to Thanksgiving for obvious reasons. And
All right.
you don't want it too early because then you'll be hitting Oktoberfest and the danger of the fans being too drunk to watch the game. No.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet to do to go, overseas, get the bye week right before Thanksgiving. So like you don't have that short, Monday, Sunday to Thursday. I kind of like that. That's cool. All right, Jacob, you got any thoughts on Germany thing or we can move on?
No, we can move on.
All right, man. Other big news this week that has me super excited. Some Lions fans maybe not as excited as I am, but Taylor Decker returning. We needed this. We needed to have, I know that he's not, prime Taylor Decker, but we needed some stability on the line and allow us to develop, the tackle of the future. So I, for one, is super excited about it. Ash, how you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm excited as well because Deck, he was the first round pick, the first round pick I can vividly remember being a Lions fan for and us picking him. All rookie team, obviously rough second year, but since then has been, never been, like a top tier tackle like Trent Williams or Terran Armstead. He's always been in that second, moderately good to, he's top 10 usually. He's fallen off, as they say, the past couple of years, top half of the league. Yeah, it just gives us that breathing space. It means that if we do take a tackle at 17 who is in need of some seasoning, Monroe Freeling, Eden Proctor, those kind of guys, you then have the leeway of, you still got Decker and Penne for them to learn behind and learn from before next year. If Decker decides to retire, then you can slot them in right in. You could even try, especially like Proctor, if you want to try it, put him at left guard, so you've got competition there for Mahogany and Frazier. It just helps everything else on the offensive lines. Super pumped to have him back. I know the team are as well, and I'm sure he will go out with one last year of absolute blaze of glory, give everything he can, then hopefully ride off into the sunset with his one of his hands feeling a lot heavier with the Super Bowl ring weighing it down.
I like that too. Jacob, does it change our draft plans at all now that Taylor Decker is coming back, in your mind?
I feel like it could. I don't feel like it necessarily has to. The thing about Decker returning is, especially it's awesome that he said it now so that everyone is on the same page. We know going in. It's not like the Frank thing where there's the unknown. But at the same time, there's no way that he's already fully recovered and 100% could go right now. And I don't know that he's ever going to, he's probably going to continue to not practice on Wednesday. That first day is probably going to continue to be a rest day. It's going to be something that he manages all year long. And, is he 100%? Is he good to go or not? How many weeks did we have like that last year? I envision a lot of the same thing going on. But as far as changing the draft strategy, I do think that we're not in as dire of a situation as we would be in before. Like Ash mentioned, if we're drafting a Monroe Freeling, Caden Proctor, most of the tackles that are going to be available at 17 they're people that you would be rolling the dice on to be ready week one, especially at left tackle in the NFL. All of these guys are people that you would want to draft and get the reps in, get the work during the preseason, have the whole year to kind of get a little more seasoned, refine their skills, and then take over next year. And if Decker was not there, obviously we need to look in free agency still too, but then it becomes more of a necessity, I think, at 17. And you don't want to have to draft the wrong person. And you don't want a situation where you're like trading down or back and forth, trying to pull the trigger at the right time. So it's awesome that Decker's back. I think it gives us more flexibility with the draft and how we want to do things. I still think tackle is going to be high, on the draft board, still likely at 17, but it's not as dire of a need. And I guess that's where it helps us out the most, right? How do you feel, Jason? You still think 17 tackle right away, or?
I think you said it right, like how I envision it too. Like it's definitely needs to be on the table, especially the first 2 rounds. Like, you don't want to go into the season having to start a left tackle. Now, you do have the option. We have the glorious option of moving Panay over and then putting whoever we would draft on the right side. However, ideally, you have Taylor Decker back this year. We draft who we want. If we can get him in the first round, if the right guy's there, you get him. And then you're hoping by the back half of the year, that guy's like pushing Taylor Decker, or God forbid Taylor Decker's hurt. You feel comfortable about playing the rookie, and then he's set up for the next year. Or Ash is right on. Like if you get a guy that could play guard, at least get him in, and then that pushes Mahogany. That just puts competition in the room. And if he doesn't start the year out, it's okay. But maybe he's pushing for guard play. He's out playing Mahogany, and then he's getting his NFL feet wet, and then he's ready to play left tackle when Taylor Decker rides off to the sun with that Lombardi Trophy, right? So that's ideally what I think is going to happen. It shouldn't trade. I don't think it really necessarily changes any of our draft plans. If the right guy's there, we definitely it's a position of need. I don't want to go in with a rookie and having to start him at left tackle, or deciding you're moving Panay, because then let's say Panay could probably go over there, but it's still going to take him time. I mean, that as good as Panay is, I don't think you can just switch over to left tackle, get ready, and then you got inexperience on the right hand side. That affects your run game. Ideally, the situation is we get the guy now, train him, and then he's ready to go in. That's just kind of how I see it. One thing I do want to hit on is that, in case people have questioned, we talked last week about Taylor Decker's cap numbers. Just to remind, he's got a $21 million cap hit this year. That is first in all of tackles, just as far as just cap hit. If you're going to go in average per year, because you can manipulate the cap, whatever that hits, he's still 20th. So he's not getting top of the, class money. He is getting where I think that he falls in that, top 20 range. I still think if he's healthy, he's in that range. Am I out of line with that, Ash? Or?
No, yeah, that's completely right. So even listening down even further, I believe he's 12th in just left tackles. And if you told me to name me 11 left tackles that are better than Taylor Decker, most people would probably struggle. I certainly do. I was saying it when we were discussing it on our podcast on Monday. I was like, on Monday. Yeah, on Monday we're discussing the possibility, and it was like, well, if let's say you do what people saying I wanted to cut him, I was like, well, name me 10 left tackles better than Taylor Decker, because you'll be giving up the chance of having that. And I was like, you got Trent Williams, Colton Miller, Garrett Bowles, but then it really just started to get hard. Look at the Bears. For as much as they fixed their offensive line this past offseason by basically signing everyone, the one hole they had was left tackle. They're getting rid of Braxton Jones, who was their starter for donkey's years as a 7th round pick. They drafted Karan Amadeji 2 years ago when we held the draft. He's turned out to be nothing. They got Theo de Bennett in this past season. He's not really turned out. They want a left tackle so bad that all the Bears fans are like, well, Taylor Decker might be a cap casualty, and Ben Johnson knows who can bring him in. If the Bears are that desperate for him, everyone else would be that desperate for him. He's kind of like the Tyler Lindenbaum conversation, where 31 other teams probably want to sign him as their center, but the Baltimore Ravens are probably going to get him back. It's the same with Decker. If we cut him or we let him loose, it's not a retirement. Pretty much every other team in the league will want him, at least for depth, if not to start. Patriots would love him, for instance. Kick Will Campbell in, put their left guard where he's supposed to, Jared Wilson, where he's supposed to be. He was at the center next to Tate Ratledge in college, so he's used to it. Fixed their problems. It fixed the Bears' problems, so why can't he fix ours?
Are you concerned about the injury stuff, Jacob? Like, is that like a major concern for you, or?
Yeah,
You brought
I
it
would
up.
say it is. I mean,
Yeah.
even Dan Campbell, kind of unprovoked, just when they asked him about Decker, he said this is before he found out. Their interviews were like right before Decker had made the announcement, which makes me feel like they kind of maybe that made him feel like the pressure maybe to say, now's the time to announce I'm coming back. Yeah, but Dan Campbell said, if he retires, then I need to find a guy. But if he doesn't, I still need to find a guy because Deck's got some things that I think he said he's got some things that are going to need some management. Who knows how the shoulder's going to look when the season starts and how long that's going to hold up? We don't know exactly. And if it's a every week thing, you got to have somebody else there. I've got a bold prediction for you, which I think is going to happen is that, you know, the tackle class this year is not as deep as the edge, right? So you're going to be able to find more
Mhm.
edge defenders, in the second round or later on. But there's going to be an edge that the fans fall in love with who's going to be there at 17. And then if we do take a tackle, the same people that are calling for Decker's head are going to be like, we already have Taylor Decker. Why didn't we draft whoever it is, Keldrick Falk, Zion Young, just any edge that they fall in love with, they're still going to be mad. They're never going to be happy about it. But yes, the injury, especially for the shoulder for an offensive lineman, is a very big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Dealing with the management all season was one thing. I don't know if he's having an off-season surgery this year. I mean, that was, you know, it seemed like he was still recovering from it, into the season. So I don't know. Hopefully, it isn't as bad. But you're right. Dan Campbell, unprovoked, brought it up, said there's going to be some management. So that makes me think that they're already planning that, and I'm okay with that. I'd rather them come into a season with a plan than just say, "Oh, we're good," because they know how important that line play is for the Lions.
Yes.
All right, you kind of just mentioned it, Jacob. Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Petzing, and Shep all met with media, got some media time here at the combine. My first question to you, Ash, we'll start with you. We'll kind of just focus on Holmes and Campbell right now. What kind of stood out to you between the two? Is there any like major thing that, just was like, I'm going to hang my hat on this, what they said that really made you think about something?
I'm going to go for the homer kind of pick here, and it was Dan's comments about Kirby. So everyone that knows me knows how big of a fan I am, Kirby Joseph, and the comments he made about, oh yeah, we don't know if it's still going to be there. Asked me again 4 to 6 weeks. It was concerning to me because we saw how quickly that the injury degenerated last year. About 10 months ago when you guys at training camp and he was missing days because of this knee injury that would come flare up and then he'd come back and then he'd flare up again and it carried into the season. And then obviously after Kansas City, he just couldn't play again. But we were all told, oh yeah, he might be back in a couple of weeks. Ask in a couple of weeks. That kind of thing that goes that bad and they're trying all these different like he was not doing the proper stuff he's supposed to because he knew if he did, it'd rule him out for the season instantly. It's all adding up to, number one, Brad was very wise the way he structured his contract with all these option bonuses that kick in. It means that if we do have to cut bait with him the end of next year or if he retires and that, we won't be on the hook for much guaranteed money. But it also just means that safety becomes even more of a priority in the draft and in free agency than we would have thought. This time last year, we had the best safety duo in the league with Kirby and Branch. Vontae Maddox and Thomas Harper proven to be good backups, but now suddenly we might be in the market for a start at single high again, and there's actually not too many of them in the league anymore that are those true guys. They're all double shell or strong safeties, so we have to find one in the draft. And while there's a few, again, they're going to be at a premium. Teams are going to snap them up harder than they usually do. So just bumps that up the priority list so much that suddenly it's a whole mess at the top of who's a tackle, edge, safety, potentially even tight end, all demanding attention. We can't give them all attention. So
All right, Jacob, what stood out to you from those media sessions?
I mean, a couple of things that stood out. I like that Dan Campbell said he made the comment that he knew within like 20 minutes of talking that Petzing that he was the right guy, that he was a good fit, and it just made sense. And he talked about they're getting him up to speed on like terminology, and that Petzing's been meeting with Goff a lot. Like they're already trying to hammer this stuff out and figure it out now. That was all a good sign. He also said that he acknowledged Petzing like having to use the heavy sets and said, that's not something that I foresee us being or doing. which is something that a lot of people were concerned about, is that what we're going to start trying to see a lot more of here, which doesn't really play to our strengths necessarily. Um, that was all nice. I like that he said too right away that they've been looking at the defense first. He said that, man, I don't have that exact quote, but something along the lines of like, this is the first time that he's been able to sit down and cut up the defense and look at everything, which also is what we kind of talked about, why the defense may have faltered a little bit, is because he's calling the plays. He doesn't have as much time with the defense. And this is the stuff that should have happened in the middle of the season. So now they've had time to like cut up the defense and look, the staff's still intact and everything like that. So, it was nice for him to acknowledge that, but obviously going forward, that's what you want him to do on a weekly basis and not during the off season or sporadically. And I've got a few for Brad Holmes too, but I mean, like if we're sticking on Dan Campbell, Jason, like, is there anything that stood out to you or?
Dan just seemed like, he seemed very like himself, but it also to me, like, he knows that this is an important season. It like came across, and the thing that I like really liked was the thing he said about Petzing. The 20 minutes, I knew this was the guy. And also I think that he, in that whole talk, he kind of admitted that, he needed to spend more time with the defense. That's what you just said. He did all the cut ups. I was liking everything I heard. Thinking that he wasn't just like, felt like last year there was so much of like, well, we got the right guy in this position. John Morton is the right guy because he was with this team. But the talk is totally different than last year. The talk was like, it's going to be more of the same. We got John Morton in here. He's been with Jared Goff. We feel the same. With Petzing, it's like everyone's talking about his skills. Like, he's, very detail oriented. He's had all these different positions, up and down, like tight ends coach. He's been wide receiver coach. Like he's done it all. And I think the talk is a lot different surrounding him than it was John Morton last year. And it makes me feel really good. Like we got a guy that's prepared, that's going to do this play calling stuff. I know people have the reservations because of what happened in Arizona. I think having mounds of talent is going to override all that. That's at least my hope. But I'm glad that Dan Campbell felt really comfortable. They talked about having like 12 interviews. We don't know who all the 12, obviously Kafka was one, and Petzing but we don't know many of the other interviews that they had. But, the fact that he knew right away, I'm glad that, that he was able to feel comfortable with him. I will say that, we'll talk about Petzing in a minute, but every time Petzing talks, I feel more and more comfortable with him. After the Pride Detroit talk and then the stuff talk with Tim Twentyman, I feel like, okay, he communicates so much better than John Morton did. John Morton seemed to say the same thing. Oh, like, we'll be fine. Like that was his thing. And I got really tired of it. So Ash, you got any other talking points? We could talk about Monty. There's some good Monty information in there if you want to talk about that, or if there's something else.
Yeah, so the Monty stuff, obviously, the comments, obviously, this was Brad saying, oh, yeah, and I think Dan also made similar stuff, but they've been having conversations with his representation. It's all very fluid. We want to have him here, but the player has to want to be here. Kind of sounded a bit like them putting the ball in Monty's court, saying, well, we've just told the fans we want you here. We're trying to put the last season in the past where we didn't use you the right way, which I think pretty much every fan agrees with. So we're happy to do that. We've brought in this new offense coordinator whose focus is the run game rather than the pass game that John Morton specialized in. We want you here. Let's get it sorted. If not, we'll send you somewhere you want to be. It's that sort of balance now of, do we want to keep Monty and then have that stability of having him? Or if he doesn't want to be here, do you ship him off to a running back needy team, which is going to be a load with, oh yeah, you should be happy again. So now suddenly these comments is back to, I don't know, he might not be in Honolulu Blue come week one.
What'd you make of the comments that Brad Holmes said, Jacob?
Yeah, I had that same one highlighted where, he said like the conversations are still fluid, but a player has to want to be at a certain place as well. And I didn't like that. But at the same time, like I 100% understand where David Montgomery is coming from and where his mindset is, and the fact that he was underutilized here, right? There's no way that he's happy. The team's not winning games and he's not getting carries. He's not getting touches. He, even on games where he was outperforming Gibbs or like, he was making more of an impact, he still wasn't getting, the bulk of the carries or getting as involved as he was in before. And maybe that's, part of the offensive efficiency. Why it didn't work as much is because Gibbs was out there more often. obviously you want as many chances as possible to strike lightning with Gibbs running off those long touchdowns. But to wear the defense down the way that we did before is what Montgomery was best at. So I completely understand Montgomery being unhappy and, weighing his options and not wanting, he's young. Who knows exactly how much longer exactly he's going to be able to perform at a starting level anyway. So does he want to still hold on to that spot and try to go be a starter somewhere else? Or, it sounds like with Petzing now, he's starting to feel a little better and starting to come around and like the idea that he's going to be utilized more here. But I just didn't like that they kind of left it open, and it still sounds like, hey, there's nothing, no one's willing to guarantee that he's going to be in Detroit next year. And I really, really want him back.
Yes, I want Demo back really bad. And so I've been thinking about this, we didn't like how he was utilized. Like none of us did. Like we all wanted, do we want to go back to the every other series thing? I don't know about that. And I don't really like that. I like even mid-series switching them up. But what I do know is that we were not as dominant in these games and up. Like our defense, especially towards the end of the season, we were not getting up on these teams. And that is when David Montgomery becomes so useful. And we can wear them down at the end of the game, especially in the second half. And we just didn't get in those situations enough last year to be able to do that. Now, there was offensive line issues too that definitely go into that. But my feeling is that like we were never up like, either we were blowing teams out like the Commanders or the Bears early in the season. We didn't have like these tight games that, we're up by 2 scores in the second half and we just give it to Dave Montgomery and we have those 7-minute drives. We weren't able to do that. It just either defense wasn't getting stops or offensive line wasn't doing their, job. So if we could get, into those situations more, that will allow Dave Montgomery to get more carries just on its own. So I'm hoping beyond hope that he's back because I really don't want him on another team, especially a team that we would play because Dave Montgomery is the type of guy that would just come in and blow 160, 170 just to show us. And I just don't want to see that. And, I get what we're saying about Gibbs is the home run hitter and we got to put him on there. But also, I feel like, mixing it up, these defenses play different. It keeps Gibbs more fresh. And if we get him on the outside, Gibbs can make, stuff happen in the pass game too. I don't want to see Montgomery on another team next year. For the money he's getting, he's definitely a good value. I just don't want to see it. But if that's what Dave Montgomery wants, then hopefully we get good value for him back because I just don't want to cut him or like get no value in return. I don't think the Lions would cut him just based on what they're saying, but trade is definitely not, something that could happen if Dave Montgomery and his agent push that.
I'd be very disappointed. But like I said, I can't say that I wouldn't understand where he's coming from and why he wants to do that and why he was kind of pushed that way. Another thing, though, another player that Brad Holmes kind of brought up, he said Levi, that we would be able to bring Levi back. But if you notice, he said, we'll be able to bring him back. Josh Pascal, we will have the ability to bring him back. We'll have some discussions. He was not willing to commit to Josh Pascal. And I don't know if that's an injury thing or just, cap situation, like just how the roster construction is going to be. But that was kind of odd to me that he offered that one up or that he worded it that way. Did you catch that? Did you notice anything about that?
Go ahead, Ash.
Yeah, I did. And it pains me because I've been a bit of a Josh Pascal defender the past couple of years of like, oh, he does what he's supposed to in his system. He's just average at what he does in terms of run defense and crashing the can. He's good as a backup to have, but as a starter, you kind of want better. And I think the team now, especially with what all the comments are making about changing some of their scheme, it maybe looks that what they ask of our edges outside of what Aiden does is going to change. We might not be so set on getting the can crushers anymore, which means that even as a backup, they'll probably get other players in, and it is what he can do in terms of sliding inside. Well, you've got Aleem hopefully back fully healthy now, tied league. You've got Levi coming back. He can do that role at a better way in a better way than Pascal's ever shown. And then you'll probably bring back Roy Lopez and someone else, and suddenly that room's full. So it seems as much as I love Pascal and I love his story, he was productive in college at Kentucky. And then I remember tweeting Eric when we drafted him, like, can we put £10 on him and turn him into a pass rushing free tech? And he'd be like, no, Eric was quite right. He was like, no, you'd lose his quick first step, which is his superpower. Well, the injuries took that from him anyway. So he's probably on his way. And I won't be surprised if he's in New York in a couple of months, because I hear that the Jets are turning to a 3-4. He'll probably fit that a lot better. And obviously he knows AG, he knows a couple of the guys over there. So Pascal, prepare to be on one of the worst teams in NFL history.
One thing that something you just said, Ash, made me think of, if we, say we have they figure out Kirby's not going to be there. You're wondering, like, last year we went into the season feeling really comfortable with our secondary. So the whole crushing the can thing was good. Like, let the secondary play. Now, if we're like a little leery, you got the Terry and Arnold situation in flux. You got Kirby. We don't know about Brian Branch. How do you fix that? You get quick pressure on the quarterback. And so, like, do the Lions change their philosophy? Do we not want to crush the can anymore and just hopefully we can get to the quarterback before, these routes develop, and then we change our philosophy? So that's a, interesting thought to have. And, maybe they'll go that way. I know fans would, certain fans would like that because they want that, for whatever reason, an edge opposite of Aiden Hutchinson is going to fix all the defensive problems. I'm skeptical of that, because then when that happens, when we get a pass rushing edge on the outside, you're going to see these quarterbacks starting to run again. And that's one thing you didn't see last year, right? I mean, as much as, I didn't like getting burned on 3rd and 10, but you didn't see running quarterbacks do anything to us. And that's kind of because of that philosophy. So, but there's plus and minuses either way, but that's just something I'm thinking about. Anything else that Holmes or Campbell said that you thought about, Ash?
Well, one thing that definitely stood out to me is, one last thing is the home saying we want to re-sign the core 4 of the 2023 draft year. So Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, Branch, which becomes a bit of a tricky situation when obviously 2 on injuries. Branch is not back from his Achilles. Sam's had the back surgery. They're going to be back fully healthy. If they are, considering the way they've played, they're going to want market resetting money. Gibbs and Campbell also want market resetting money. So suddenly you might be looking at going from paying them 4 really affordable rookie contracts to 20 million each, pretty much. So that's 80 million. So you're going to be down on the cap. Can we fit those in? It becomes, we're starting to have to make those decisions, which is why, we need to change our draft philosophy partly. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how we balance those cap dynamics, especially if with some also recent news with Disney potentially good moving up on the ladder, we might lose one of our cap gurus. So suddenly fitting those numbers in becomes a lot even harder.
Yeah. Jacob, anything else stick out to you from the media sessions?
I think the last thing I had on my list was just when Brad Holmes said, he acknowledged like Tate Ratledge didn't do anything wrong when they started him at center, when they had him like looking at him. They just felt that right guard was going to be an easier acclimation. And, they had Graham on the team, and it was easier just to have Graham play center. But there's still potential, like Tate may play center. We don't know that.
Yeah, that stuck out to me too. And that's probably matters what we bring in with free agency. Now, was something we did talk about with the Decker, Commanders just cut their starting center, and the Titans just cut their starting center. Titans was on an injury designation, so that might, prohibit that one from happening. But that means there's centers on the market, and there's more to come before free agency. So that's definitely on the table. I will say the only other thing that stuck out to me is my sneeze. No, the only thing that stuck out to me was Holmes' demeanor. He was very somber, was not cocky at all. Like, it was in total contrast to how he came in the last 2 combines. And it just seemed like, that was a choice he made. And I'm all for it. Like, we didn't make the playoffs last year. So if Ida came in with cocky, like, oh, I did all this good drafting, it would not have went over well. So I was happy that he came in with the attitude that he had. All right, let's turn our attention to the combine. I personally have not been able to see anything with the combine. I know, Ash, this is your baby. So we're going to just kind of lead you into the conversation here. So first of all, I know that we haven't seen the whole combine yet. So, any players that stood out to you, especially players that the Lions might be interested in?
So one that definitely did, and in the worst way, because he was one that I would always pick up in the fourth round of my mock drafts back when no one knew about him. And now suddenly, if you listen to certain podcasts, cough, cough, Jeff Risdon's daily DLPs, he's now going to Seattle at 32, and that's Carl Louis, the pit linebacker, plays that star position. It's this new thing in college. Think what Nick Amorari does for Seattle. That's what this new position is. I think Branch played a bit of it in its infancy in college as well. Basic big nickel, can do a bit of everything. He does that. He's listed by some as a linebacker, some as a safety. But in terms of his results, because the linebackers and defensive linemen are the only ones who've probably gone through the athletic side of things, he ranked fifth in the 40-yard dash with a 4.5340, a 5.18 10-yard split, which was third. He ranked fourth in vertical jump with 39.5-inch vertical jump, and then second with a 10'9" broad jump. And he absolutely blew the combine, like the podium interviews as well, and blew people away with them. And we had a formal with him, but with the athletic testing and what he can do in this new age multiplicity defense era of the NFL, a team's going to covet him. And if the Seattle Seahawks get his hands on him and Nick Rory, geez, the amount of things they can do in that blitz scheme. Seattle will easily have the best defense. They'll take over from Houston. No one will have a shout to them if everyone's healthy now.
He's one of those people that's like too big to be a safety, too small to be a linebacker. Like, it's where do they put him? What do they do with him? I have not heard much about him in the first round, though. But I do see now, he blew up at the combine, and that's, if you're in his position, that's exactly what you want to do. You show it at the combine. People, if you're on the fringe of anybody's draft boards, you're moving up and sneaking your way into the first round.
Yeah. So, again, I was saying the first round thing came from Riz, but there's other people saying he won't be there by 50. He's had a meteoric rise over the past couple of weeks because people watched the tape and then finally say the combine, it blew it away. The reason I loved him is because he would have been such a perfect replacement for Anzo, because he does the will stuff. He's got really good coverage. Plus, the one thing we really missed this year from linebackers is the blitzing. Fansalodi was one of our best blitzers the past couple of years. We didn't do that as much, and you could tell. Carl Louis also got a great pass rush arsenal. Yeah, he's off our draft boards now, I think, unless you really want to get spicy and take him at 17 and shock the world again. Last time we took a linebacker in the first round, it worked out well. So hopefully we can go two for free over the past 10 years on first round linebackers.
Do you think the outrage from the fans, though, like if that's where we went, linebacker round one that early?
God, yeah. I remember sitting there when we took Jack Campbell at 18 on our live draft show, and everyone's reactions was interesting to say the least, especially since I scouted Jack and I was like, second rounder, Leighton Van Der Esch, nothing going to be special. He's turned out to be an all-pro, hasn't he? Made me look foolish.
Right. If we
I
pivot,
was at the stadium.
Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
I was just saying, I was at the stadium for the Jack Campbell thing, and the vibe was not, because you're still trying to understand the Jahmyr Gibbs pick at that point, and then Jack Campbell came. But if you'd have flipped any of those four picks like around, it'd been fine. But obviously, it's all worked out well. So, all right, sorry, Jacob, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if we pivot to like the offensive tackle discussion, because obviously that's the one where it seems like that's the most likely where we're going to be going in here. Who do you think? It's hard when we talk about the combine for offensive linemen, because there's not really, it could be flashy if they show out in the bench press or like stuff like that, but it does not matter how fast the offensive lineman runs necessarily. You hope that they move fluidly in drills, but I don't think it's not like edge or receiver somewhere where your draft stock can rise considerably. So with that being said, where it lies right now, who do you think, like if you had to put 2 or 3 most likely picks for who we would take at 17? If we stand pat at 17, who do you think is going to be there? And who do you got your eye on?
So one that's definitely I've got my eye on, again, this is borrowing a lot from draft shows, but we did do our offensive tackle scouting this Monday. So Matt, one of the hosts, did scouting. Monroe Freeling, the Georgia left tackle, especially with the Decker news now. Freeling, who does need a bit of still a bit more maturation. While he's been a couple of years start at Georgia, still hasn't fully got the position. He's there pass blocking wise. You will not miss a beat with him in terms of replacing Decker next year in pass blocking. It's just the run blocking that still needs a bit of work. Plus, he does have a couple of the injury questions as well. He's had the prophylactic ankle procedure that Tate Riley's had as well. He still had an ankle sprain last year despite having that. He's had a shoulder injury in the past as well. So that's someone that, if the medicals clear well at the combine, if he interviews well, if he shows that athleticism he's got on tape, He's the kind of guy that, if he's there at 17, you run the card in, there's your eventual Decker replacement next year. And he does have that athletic ceiling to be one of the best left tackles in the league, if not one of the best tackles. That's not called Penei Sewell. Another one, seeing how he's falling in draft boards, at least mock drafts and that, the analysts are doing. Spencer Farnu, the Utah tackle. I know everyone has been focused on Caleb Lomu, the right tackle from Utah. He's been one of the most consistent picks for Lions fans on mock drafts over the past couple of months, be that PFF, PFN, whichever one you use. I found this new one that's even better. I'll share with you guys later because, oh my God, the off-season simulator they have is great. He's one Farnu's kind of been slipping on draft boards while everyone's looking at Lomu. Farnu, well, he hasn't got the most experience. I think he could have started playing football 4 or 5 years ago. When he went to Utah, he started as a right tackle, moved to left tackle over the past couple of seasons. The last time he gave up a sack in conference play was 2.5 years ago against USC. He's actually given up more sacks against FCS teams than he has against conference opponents. He's got all the athleticism in the world and plays at left tackle and is still moldable. Again, someone who's a bit more polished than Monroe Freeling in terms of run blocking, just need a bit of technique work there. The pass blocking's about the same. But again, someone that if he's there at 17, you run the card in and you pick him, there's your eventual deck replacement ceiling of a Trent Williams kind of player because he's just amazing. Same with Lomu, but Lomu's a bit older, so you don't have that much of a runway to develop him. And then, surprise everyone, TJ Parker, the Clemson edge. I know everyone's looking at tackle, but I know going back to 5 minutes ago, we were saying we're changing philosophy. TJ Parker was someone that entering this season was a top 5 pick in a load of mock drafts. And as with all the other Clemson players, pretty much, because of some bad play this year, the whole team sucks. He's kind of fallen down. He hasn't been as productive as he was past year. He got pretty much the same amount of pressures, but the sacks dried up like a well in the Sahara Desert. Like it went from having 12 the season before to only 6 this year. And 3 of them came in one game at the end of the season where he was just trying to play out to get some draft tape on there. But he's got the athleticism. He looked really good in drills today running them because luckily defensive linemen did all their testing today. Tested really well as well. Really good interviews, had a formal with us, and will just be that kind of perfect bookend to edge for Hutch. Just put him the other side of Hutch. They can both play 90% of snaps if you need to. Both can defend the run well. Both can pass rush. And yet, because he doesn't have the athleticism of, say, a David Bailey, because he doesn't have the sort of youth that someone like Keldrick Falk has on his side. Keldrick Falk's only 20, which makes me feel old at 27. God help us all. He doesn't have those things going for him, but he is a solid at least 6 out of 10 in everything you want from an edge, with the ability, with the right coaching, to become an 8-9, kind of like how Hutch has. So if you had to ask me right now, those are the top 3 guys I'd pick at 17, but obviously it all can change. The tackles could show out. Someone could double count Caden Proctor and suddenly he's our pick at 17 and oh my God, the fires over here would be immense. You could see him on the other side of the Atlantic because certain Lions fans over here, if we took Caden Proctor, they would riot and they would riot hard.
Right. No, I love that you said TJ Parker because that's actually who like I have in bold on my board. That not necessarily my favorite, but exactly what the Lions look for opposite of Hutch. The power defensive end that is able to run guys over. You hold your edge, but you're able to push that guy back into the quarterback's lap consistently, and you can do that 90% of the snaps. So I love that you said that because that's somebody else I'm looking at too. And also, you know, we just talked about Decker coming back. If you're not feeling sold on a tackle, maybe you do pull the trigger on TJ Parker if you fall in love with what he brings right away. But that's also a perfect example for what I was saying before that, you know, TJ Parker might be there and everybody loves him. And then when we take Caden Proctor or we take Monroe Freeling, people are mad because, you know, I think those are more likely. Both of those tackles right there, if Lomu is there, maybe 2. All 3 of them have the same thing in common, though, that they need time to develop. They're not going to be somebody that right away you put out there, you throw them to the wolves. It's not going to turn out for you. Whereas, you know, some of the tackles towards the top of the board, like that's why almost all of them that I've seen have Spencer Fano and the Miami guy, Mawagoa, are
Francis
top 10
Mawagoa,
picks.
yeah.
Yeah, they're both top 10 picks on pretty much all the mock draft boards. And if that's the way it goes, maybe Lomo goes a little bit earlier than 17. And then it's like, man, do we really take a chance on Freeling right here? Do we hope that, one of the other tackles, Blake Miller, somebody that we're looking in round 2, there's just too much. I just have a feeling whatever tackle that we take, if we go that way, the fans are not going to like it. It's not a sexy pick. It's not somebody that's going to impact right away, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to help the team and set us up for the future. But I would be ecstatic if the TJ thing works out, because that's somebody that, everything that you see about him just screams Detroit Lions and just exactly the kind of guy that they want back there. That being said, like we already mentioned, there's so many edge defenders in this draft that you're going to be able to get somebody that can contribute in round 2, round 3, or maybe even later, if that's not as high of a point of emphasis for us.
Yeah. But I would say the same about tackles, though. I don't know how much you guys looked at the second round options. I know you mentioned Blake Miller there, someone rising. I personally scouted him for our draft offensive tackle show this week. Really did like him. Same basically what I said about TJ Parker. Basically, him at offensive tackle, that's Blake Miller for you. But one guy that I've kind of slightly fallen in love with in the tackle class, and it's someone that's consistently a second rounder right now, and it would mean that we could go edge in the first round now. Caleb Tiernan, the Northwestern left tackle. So they've got a good history. Northwestern have got with their left tackles over the past couple of years. Peter Skronsky's had to move inside at guard, but he's been good. But before that, Christian Darrisaw. They've got good left tackles, and Tiernan's been their starter for the past 4 years in the Big Ten, which obviously you guys know is a damn hard conference to be in. You've got a load of good edge rushers in that conference. But he's held his own in that, and while Northwestern's kind of gone through the ring over the past couple of years, he gets bonus points for almost sticking out with them. He was a freshman when all that stuff went down. Instead of transferring somewhere else, he had offers from other Big Ten schools, some SEC schools. I know a certain FSU definitely offered him a transfer portal thing if he wanted it. So he stuck out with them, and it's kind of gone under the radar because everyone's looking at the first round guys, and then they're looking at ASU's Max Anayaka, who's, again, someone that needs a lot of molding, but the rise he's had this year has been immense. Caden Proctor, they're looking at all those athletic projects. Just because he's not that kind of athletic freak and, he doesn't play for a big name school, he's kind of gone under the radar. So if we do go edge in the first round, like DJ Parker, Keldrick Fork, someone like that, if we swing back around and he's there at 50, suddenly that's 2 of our biggest holes sorted with players who could, if you need them to, start day 1.
I have not heard of Tiernan, that high. That's somebody like on the radar later in the draft. But honestly, like, if I'm like being completely honest, it's just towards the end of the draft is when I start looking for people that have ties to Michigan, just because those are the best stories and those are the kind of guys that I want around. Caleb Tiernan he's from Michigan, which I did not know that until like was looking at the tackle prospects like that. So that would be a cool story for sure. Once again, not a sexy pick, not something that people are going to be excited about.
I'm not expecting us to have any, if we get edge, maybe that's a sexy pick, but this is going to be a restocking the lines.
It should, as it should be.
Then if we're going to do any skill stuff, it's going to be late, and those, aren't going to be any of the top players. So I'm expecting people to be very upset about draft and free agency this year, because I don't think we're going to be spending tons of money in free agency. So it's going to be a lot of people being upset and thinking that we're blowing our window. But, that being said, Jacob, is there anything else that you had for Ash for the combine, or anything else you want to add before you move on to our last question?
No, I won't overwhelm him with any more. We'll talk. Well, there's more. Right. There's going to be more time for us to talk about this before the draft.
You got to remember how late it is for Ash. She's like, what is it over there right now? Is it 3?
It's just just hit 3:30 in the morning.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, yeah. So
all right, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Fun question at the end. All right, Brandon Aubrey. They're going through contract situations with Jerry Jones. Those are sideshows just to begin with. They offered him, it's reported, a $7.5 million, which would make him the highest paid kicker. He's holding out, and they're saying that he wants $10 million a year. So Ash, I'm gonna start with you. Would you give any kicker in the league $10 million a year? And if you do, is Brandon Aubrey that guy?
There's only 3 kickers in the league that I would give it to. Aubrey's definitely one of them. Second one is Cam Little, the Jacksonville kicker, like Arkansas kid. Obviously holds the record now for the longest kick in NFL history. Thank you for breaking that last year. I'll give you an extra $1 million AAV just for that, my friend. And the other one, just 100% biased. I don't care. Jake Bates, if you have to pay him that, pay it him, because dude's already breaking records for us and he's worth it. He's got the leg. But if push comes to shove for Brandon, he can hold out all he wants with the new UFL rules. Some UFL team is going to pay him whatever he wants with the 60-plus yarders now being worth 4 points. He's going to make a lot of bank there.
What do you think, Jacob? You paying $10 million to a kicker?
No, I do not want to do that. But at the same time, I mean, he was fringe MVP for that team. Just, anytime you hit midfield, you pretty much almost guaranteed yourself 3 points. I mean, he was definitely a weapon, and we saw that when we played them. So I think if a kicker was ever going to hit 10 million, it would probably be him right now. That's a hard sell, though, to dedicate 10 million of your cap space to the kicker.
Yeah, I think the high right now is like in the 6 million range, like 6.3, somewhere right now. That's what the highest. So to jump that to 10 million, I mean, that is
nearly
a heck
double
of a jump. Brandon Aubrey probably has the cachet to be able to command that. I don't think he's going to get it. I think he's going to get close. I think he's going to get above the 7.5, but I don't know. Sorry, I'm not giving Jake Bates 10 million. He's not. Brandon Aubrey's automatic inside 50, like for the most part, and then almost automatic outside of 50. He really, like, especially the new kickoff rules, you get one first down and you're in Brandon Aubrey's field goal range. Now, that also being said, for a Lions fan, we go for it on fourth down, so we're not kicking field goals. So that probably goes in the equation in itself. But yeah, I'm not giving him $10 million, but I'm gonna love watching this go through the go through the Jerry Jones cycle and him bringing it to the media and how this is gonna go. I don't know. What do you think he ends up signing for? If you're gonna guess, Ash, what do you think he gets a year? Just to put a number on it.
I think he'll probably get 8. If he's not going to sign that second round tender, they've now used it on TJ Bass, their guards. I don't think you can use the tender twice. But they've already used it up now, so they have to negotiate. He's already not accepted 7.5. They're going to have to go higher. Well, I think they're going to stick at 8. If not, oh hell, someone else will sign him at 8. They did it last year with Michael Parsons. This year, we've already seen one trade go on today. It's not going to be long until we see another kicker trade that we haven't seen for 2 years when the Jags and the Chiefs did their trade for that guy we used to have that then they cut and we signed.
What do you think, Jacob? What do you think he ends up signing for?
I would say probably around 8. If where it's at right now, the top is 6 and he's wanting 10, they want to try to meet in the middle. I would say 8 or maybe 9. The Cowboys are also notorious for making their players angry and making it public and having these huge clashes and then giving in and giving the player what they want anyway after just damaging the relationship and everything between them. But he is still a kicker. And I mean, it would suck for them to lose him and for him to go elsewhere, but I don't think you necessarily are losing sleep like if Micah would have left for nothing, right? I mean, at the end of the day, he is a kicker. You can replace him, maybe not to that level. If they're not going to be performing as high, but you can get another kicker that you can pay maybe $1 million, $2 million a year without having to do that. So, when you don't have a whole lot of cap space to work with, that's such a hard sell to say 10 million to a kicker.
Yeah, it's the opportunity cost, right? Like, is he worth it? Yeah, you could argue that he's worth it, but that cap can't be spent on another player at that point. So yeah, I think it's in the 8 million range. You start getting close to 9 million, I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to get into that ballpark. Now, who knows, man? If he starts hitting 70 yarders, man, that's crazy. But I don't want to spend that. It's the cap space is where I get, stuck into all that. As the cap goes up, though, as the cap keeps going up, you're going to see, everyone's money's going to go up. But, if the highest is 6.2, 10 million seem like you're trying to almost double the highest. Like, no, he's not that good for me. So, all right, Ash, we're getting ready to wrap up here. Let everybody, draft stuff's coming up, and I know you're super into that. Tell people what you got going on and what they could look for you and where they could find you.
So obviously Broader Lines UK, search on pretty much everywhere and you'll find me and the guys right now we're doing, as I kind of mentioned a couple of times, we're doing artificial breakdowns. We've already done 2 weeks ago. We did some of our favorite players who we just wanted to get started with. So I did Michael Taffy, the Texas safety, for instance, but Ant did a couple of HBCU guys that he really loved. That then he went to bat for when they got stuff from the combine. This week just gone, we've just done offensive tackles, but now we're going to do combine breakdown and look through edges, all that to come to us for any specific breakdowns. We usually do about 6 a week, so you get a nice spread as well. And then when it comes to draft time, we'll be live for all through the draft. That's going to be 24 hours over 3 days. Thank God I've gotten booked off work. We've got, I think, 30 out of 31 teams booked down. So we'll have fans from other teams asking about their seasons, their drafts, their free agencies, while also having some external guys on as well that aren't really to do with teams. Some draft pundits over here in the UK who do work for PFN, for instance. We've had Ollie Hodgson on for the past couple of years. Just getting them all on, discussing the draft while also analysing all the picks and, flipping tables when stuff doesn't go our way. Tune in to probably see Ant break something when the Seahawks draft another one of his players, or the Steelers, because for some reason they love sniping his favourite players. That's why he hates them.
Ash, love when you're on this show. You do such a good job. You're such a good guy, and we appreciate you staying up late for us. Anything else, Jacob, before we take off here?
No, yeah. Shouts out to Ash. 3:30 in the morning, still going strong. Not missing a beat either.
I know. He's right on top of it, man. I'm super impressed. So, Ash, you're always welcome to come back. So, for Ash and Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go, Lions.